Dear people of God, I bring you warm greetings from Nebbi Utie kane Danumi Ganal Utie Uno Nebbi Ung'eyo ni wachako safari mwami yobrepi nindo matine ni kago Raphael mokada ng'ech ni chakre mochaku wuoto awacha weku iching jusadeni remo maleng me Uganda dong tin watush eni aweku cheke iching yo Dear pilgrims, I greet and thank the chair of the Uganda Episcopal Conference, Bishop Anthony Ziwa, and the entire members of the Uganda Episcopal Conference for mandating Nebbi Catholic Diocese to lead this year 2024 Uganda Martyrs celebration. We are very, very happy to lead again since 2007. We don't know when we shall lead again, but we hope to come again very soon. I greet and welcome the Apostolic Nuncio to Uganda, His Excellency Most Reverend Luigi Bianco. I greet other visiting bishops who are here with us. From Congo, Bishop Sosten of Mahagi Nyoka Diocese. I greet another bishop from South Africa, and maybe others have not met. I greet and welcome you, my dear brother priests, religious men and women. Feel welcome. I greet and welcome His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of Uganda, the First Lady and Minister for Education and Sports, Mama Honorable Janet Museveni. I greet and welcome the Most Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament. I greet Honorable Prime Minister of Uganda, former Vice President of Uganda. I greet Mama Nyerere and family, ministers, and all members of Parliament, former ministers, former MPs, heads of political parties here present, dear cultural leaders, especially the Chief of Alur, Obemo. In a particular way, I want to thank and greet the chairperson of the laity and also the chairperson of the organizing committee, Honorable Catherine Akumu Mavenjina. I greet you all, heads of the different pilgrims from the various communities. In a particular way, I would like to greet welcome and congratulate Honorable Mao, who wedded a couple of days ago. I greet and welcome all pilgrims from within and from without Uganda. In a particular way, I would like to greet and welcome our pilgrims from Kenya and Tanzania. Ninyi mahujaji kutoka Kenya na Tanzania, kwa muda mrefu mmekuwa mkija kwenye sherehe za Namugongo kwa wengi kutoka majimbo mbalimbali. Tunawakaribisha kwa furaha tele. Karibu tena na tena. In a particular way, I would like to greet and welcome our brothers and sisters from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Chers frères et sœurs de la RDC, nous ne pouvons pas oublier de reconnaître votre dévouement aux martyrs de l'Ouganda. J'ai été au Congo pendant plusieurs années. Là, j'ai bien connu que votre reconnaissance des 5 Kizito est bien répandue dans toutes les paroisses que j'ai visitées. Soyez les bienvenus. Dear brothers and sisters, our celebration of the Eucharist in honor of the Uganda Martyrs on this holy ground of Namugongo, where 13 of them were martyred, is very meaningful for us. It refreshes our way of being Christians. If you look around, look on the hills, see the multitude of people, what comes to our mind? If not an experience of new Pentecost. We have the experience of new Pentecost here. We have people from all corners of Uganda, from the neighboring countries, from Southern Africa, from Europe and beyond. Indeed, all tribes of God are gathered here by the Uganda Martyrs, so we may feel as one people on this planet Earth. We thank the Lord for gathering us as one community of faith, so we could be bearers of hope in our societies, in our families, and over our history. Every year we celebrate this feast, but this year again we celebrate, but with a special touch, because we remember the 60th anniversary of the canonization of the Uganda Martyrs. We are very, very delighted to be part of it. We celebrate also the 145th anniversary this year of the arrival of the Catholic faith in Uganda, brought by the missionaries of Africa under the leadership of Father Mapera Ludel. We thank God for the gifts of missionaries that have brought to us the faith we are living and celebrating today. Celebrating the Uganda Martyrs here is an expression of God's goodness to Uganda. We recall the words of St. Pope Paul VI when he visited Uganda in 1969. He said, "Uganda is particularly dear to the Catholic Church since it has provided the first canonized African martyrs and the first African bishop of modern times, Bishop Kiwanuka, and because a third of its population comprises faithful sons and daughters of the Church, making this one of the first Christian nations of Central Africa. We are proud to be Ugandans. We are proud to be Catholics." The story of the Uganda Martyrs, St. Charles Lwanga and his companions, is a story of those who trust in the Lord. It's a story of those who choose the way of the Lord. It's a story of those who abandon the way of idolatry. In the first reading in the Gospel, we are invited to make choice. We are offered basically two choices: the choice to life and choice to death. And the word of Joshua, whom we have read, the word of Joshua that guided our preparation throughout to come here to Namugongo, particularly with the phrase which he said, "As for me and my household, we shall serve the Lord." Who is Joshua? Joshua, the name which means "the Lord is my salvation." He lived according to his name. From his young age, tender age, Joshua presented himself as an aid to Moses. He wasn't a young man who is lost there on the street. He was a young man who was not confused. He was a young man with a purpose. He walked with Moses. He looked intently at Moses at every step of his journey, of his vocation. When Moses went on Sinai to receive the law from God, Joshua was there with him. They stayed on the mountain for 40 days. And when they came down, they found that the people of Israel waiting at the foot of Mount Sinai had made their own golden calf that they called God. Moses and Joshua were bitter, were angry, and very surprised to see a people just liberated from slavery already forgetting the goodness of God, preferring the way of the idols. They built their own idols in their midst. Joshua was always present with Moses. At the tabernacle, Joshua was next to Moses. When God appeared to Moses, and Moses saw God face to face, Joshua witnessed that. He had made a choice at a young age, and he dedicated his life to fulfill it. Joshua felt cold to work to please God, not the world. Moses helped him to understand the meaning of the law. And indeed, the law that the witness given to Moses shaped his life, made him conform his life with the will of God. And because he was conformed to the will of God, he readily did what was pleasing to God. And today is no wonder if Joshua says, "Me and my household, we shall serve the Lord." He had learned from the law that God gave to shape his life. When you offer your person, your being, when you offer your community as sacrifice, pleasing to God, because you have no other God. This is the way Joshua understood what his vocation was all about. He understood that when you offer sacrifice to God, because you have no other God, because you don't kill, because you don't steal, because you don't spread fake news, you are pleasing to God. And engage his whole family to enter into this spiritual gift in this moment of grace in his life. Equally, Jesus has taught us through the gospel readings we had today. He presents us the pattern of being one who stays on the side of life to seek life. He will not offer money. He will not offer animal or other people. The way people are being sacrificed in the unjust wars or bad policies or bad politics. He offered his own life. He closed his life. He made his life close to the poor, to the suffering, to the abandoned. And that is what he meant by being a disciple. Jesus taught his disciples to embrace that pattern of life, to embrace that journey. How beautiful when we are self-giving, when we are ready to serve our brothers and sisters with generosity. Our world today is looking for such figures like Joshua and apostles of Jesus who offer themselves to continue what God wants in human life. The warmth of that kind of self-giving is wanting more and more today. We remember the experience of Mother Teresa when she was once in London and taking a walk. And there she bounced into a beggar who was fixed in a place for years. Every day he will be there in the same place. Next to him, a small can. And the can was always filled by passers-by with coins or notes. Many people will come, throw the coin, and go. Mother Teresa one day went there and met this man. She stopped. She extended her hand and greeted her, greeting him, telling him, "I have no money, but I want just to greet you." The man held her hand tightly, didn't want to leave. And he said to Mother Teresa, "It has been a long time since I touched the warmth of human hand." We live in a society where self-offering, self-giving has become a luxury, has become a privilege. We live in a world where closeness to one another is challenged. But sometimes we prefer using the online communications more than one-to-one encounter. God is invoking His Spirit upon us through the intercession of the Holy Uganda Martyrs to see and revise the pattern of our life. We recognize today that our culture, the great hallmarks of our culture, are marked by smallness of thinking. Smallness of thinking because we live according to the gods we serve, to the gods we worship, to the idols we have created. And as the psalmist said, they made their gods of silver and gold. They have eyes, but they cannot see. They have ears, but they cannot hear. They have mouths, but they cannot speak. These are gods that are blind, that are dumb, that are deaf. And the psalmist says the makers will become like them. It is unfortunate that the world of idolatry spreads like wildfire. And that is a challenge, that is a call. God, through the celebration of today, is inviting us to the bigness of thinking, where we see the need to live according to the designs of God, and to be like Joshua, who declared that me and my household, we shall serve the Lord. That was his decision, which is quite inspiring. It inspired, I believe, also the lives of the Uganda Martyrs, who took upon themselves the calling to Christian life, the law of God to be lived, to be practiced. They took the word of God seriously to shape their decisions. We may remember that part of the trouble that they faced with the Kabaka was because on Sundays they will go for their prayers and not stay in the palace of the king. The following of the law of God brought them into tension with the Kabaka, their master. From the initial stage of their faith and in the lives of the individual martyrs, we see here and there how they embraced the law of God and made sure that one took prominence in their life. St. Charles Joseph Balikudembe, we know he was the first of the martyrs to be killed, the proto-martyr among the Christian martyrs in Uganda. He was close to Kabaka. He was one of the great advisors of Kabaka, so much so that even the Kaktikrunden became jealous of him, fearing that Kabaka would appoint sooner or later Joseph Balkodembe as his prime minister. He was very jealous. Though he was close to Kabaka, though he listened to Kabaka, when it came to matters of his faith, he preferred to please God, not to please the world. And so when Kabaka Mwanga killed Bishop Hannington in Jinja, Joseph Balkodembe went and told Kabaka, it is wrong to kill. Don't kill. God does not permit anybody to kill. It is always amazing, for this is a man who lived in a culture where the conversation with the Kabaka was repeatedly answered in one word, yes, Sebo, yes, Sebo. Here he turned the story, sign of courage animated by his faith. Courage of Joseph Balkodembe is a light for our step in our world, more especially when we have place of leadership, when we take responsibility to guide others, when we make decisions and policies. Recently, our parliament made a big shot, a kickoff on the program of homosexuality, same-sex marriage that was proposed. They tightened it and kicked it out. Big courage. At the same time, we know that the signs of evil still remain, rooted in our midst. How I wish the same policymakers could also take the same energy to shoot out corruption. Our martyrs are a light to our step. They don't tolerate idols. Their hearts were shaped by the law of God. Matthias Mulumba, a man who was married to many women, they talked of 3 or 4, and it seems he was a very handsome man, and many women liked him. He got 4, but when he came into contact with Christianity, with Catholic faith, he found himself in that dilemma. For the law of God tells us one man, one woman. And what Matthias Mulumba had to do was to allow himself be guided by what the faith dictates, as we do in politics. When people of the same party are contesting for the same position, whether as MP or LC5 or other posts, what they do primary elections. Matthias Mulumba had to do primary elections with his wives. And at the end, he remained with one. I invite all our Christians, all our well-wishers who find themselves in the same situation like Matthias Mulumba to begin doing their primary elections, so that by the end of the year, by the year of the Jubilee 2025, weddings are in plenty. And we know wedding is one way of strengthening the identity of family, the value of family, putting God in our midst. May Saint Mulumba help all our families, so that the dignity of families may remain according to the mind of God. Let us all strive, let us all pray that this be a reality day by day, more especially for those families that are struggling a lot to be in union with one another, in communion with one another, a family that is reflecting the Holy Family of Nazareth. May God bless all our families. May the Uganda Martyrs, through their gift of faith and love for their vocation as Christians, bless all our pilgrims here gathered today in Namugongo, that the grace that fortified their faith reaches every one of us, touches every one of us. May our pilgrimage, our walk to this holy ground not be in vain. May God bless all of you.